The summertime is well and truly underway. I can tell that because of all the rain that we've been having. So here's a few things to think about if you are planning on getting out and about and up some of the fantastic hills and mountains around the UK. Let's start with the most boring and simple things and then get more exciting. So firstly, appropriate footwear. Now, if I'm out and about in a nice country park like this with flat, well-trodden paths, then I'm basically normally going to be wearing something that's the most basic of walking boots, more of a heavy-duty trainer that can be all but slipped on and off, I suppose. But anything more prolonged, more uneven underfoot, I would personally say, and I certainly feel myself, that even adding just a little bit of ankle support isn't going to hurt. Over the years, I've worn a lot of different boots that come up to different levels, both above and below the ankle. At the moment, I'm wearing boots that are sort of somewhere in the middle when I'm out on my proper big walks. And I'd say that's broadly a nice fit for a lot of different environments and types of walk. But I do feel after a recent walking holiday that I may well go back to just some that come slightly up above my ankle, just for that added support again. Let's talk about backpacks, one of my favourite things in the world, even when I'm not walking. So if you're going up doing day hikes where you're getting up the mountains early, doing a couple of tops, and then ultimately coming back down to the car by the end of the day, I'd say that a 25 to 35 litre backpack would be ideal. You don't want anything too monstrously big that's a hassle to take with you, and you also don't want to end up on a mountaintop with something that's effectively a glorified purse with about 2 biscuits and a thimble full of water as your supplies. Now, something I will say here, because modern backpacks, especially in the walking range, seem to be so feature-packed and described in terms that makes them feel akin to some kind of science fiction device, there's an entire video that I've got planned talking about the different types of backpack and different features and stuff. So I won't go too much into detail now, but a massive tip I will give you is that if you can get one that's got a frame or a laptop pocket that you can put something like a magazine in, or in my case what I used to do, I had a bag with a laptop pocket, I used to put a cutting board from making models and airfix planes in it, and that basically acted as a layer, a little barrier, so that if you had anything like bottles or things with angles in your backpack, it stopped them and the corners and nozzles poking into your back as you were walking. Just a little tip there. Let's get Orwellian. So, despite how you may feel about modern technology tracking your every move, I personally feel that there's definitely some moments out in the great outdoors where you might be in some unknown territory, facing some particularly unpleasant weather or terrain conditions, that you yourself, or certainly your loved ones, may take some peace of mind in knowing that your GPS location is being beamed out somewhere to somebody. There's a lot of phones now, both Android and Apple, that have various features and apps that you can use. So, for example, on my iPhone, I use the Find My app. And so my girlfriend and my mum can both see me and my location when I'm out and about in these places, which again, just out of curiosity, sometimes it's interesting to be like, oh, you've been up that way, oh, you're by the coast, etc, etc. But there's also apps like Strava and things like that that can obviously give you these unbelievable statistical breakdowns of your outdoor activity. And if you're wearing something like an Apple Watch, etc., it can even show you your heart rate as you are going through different areas and up and down different inclines. And yeah, it's definitely something I find interesting. And I think the basic point, though, is basic safety. If you've got the option of letting somebody know where you are, not only in person before you leave, but also as you're out and about, then to me, that can only be a positive thing. When you look at some of the stories that come out of the countryside, and especially if you look up at the Scottish Highlands, almost every year there's stories of people that go missing, and sometimes they aren't found for months, and you just almost think, how's that even possible? Again, important lessons and important warnings to make sure that we're always as sensible and safe as we can be. Just a side note here, I know that my mum tracks her fella who does a huge amount of road cycling using the Strava app, and it actually even shows you not only where he's been, but how much battery life his phone has got that's beaming out the location, so that you can even track that and know, hang on a minute, he's running out of charge, etc, etc. I'm not 100% on whether that requires a paid subscription or not, but definitely something curious and interesting to look into. Walking poles. Now, it may surprise some of you that me being age 36, I am such a huge fan and spokesperson for walking poles. Now, I will say that after a lifetime of walking and cycling thousands of miles a year for a decade plus, my knees are nowhere near what they once were. So I found myself a couple of years ago literally in so much pain on the descents of mountains that I genuinely thought that my walking days were maybe going to be over within a few months. And then my friend lent me his pair of walking poles, and I've never looked back. I cannot express how massively they changed things for me. I can't say that they're going to be a miracle cure or work for everybody, but for my part, I wish I'd been using them for years. I love them so much that I've actually already recorded a full-length video just talking about walking poles and why I love them so much. So I'll leave a link to that in the description, but all I'll say is for something that's so relatively cheap, you can get walking poles off Amazon delivered to your door for less than 30 quid, and they're so handy, lightweight and portable, etc, etc. I think they're fantastic, and I'm so glad that I discovered them. Otherwise I might be sat at home now thinking, flipping heck, I wish I still went walking. Anyway, walking poles, love them. So here's a little bonus item just because I'm filming a TikTok about them as I'm doing this video. So I would say that you could call them lightweight crampons, but basically the spikes that go on the base of your shoes, but not any sort of really built-in fixed massive spikes that you'd do any crazy ice-covered mountains in, just the ones that stretch over your current existing shoe. And me and my friend have found over the last year, when we've been putting them on just to test in different environments, that as long as the track isn't too loose and sort of stony, when we've been going down some of the wetter, slippier, grassy Welsh hillsides, putting those on, we've been more sure-footed and actually descending quicker than without them. So that's just something to look into, and something that I'm more curious about wearing in more different environments and testing them out a little bit further, because we did find in a little bit of snow that the snow would clump up in snowballs around them, so that wasn't ideal. But then slightly off the snow, they were fantastic and an absolute asset to have. So yeah, little crampon things, I'll call them for now. I've gone off a track here. Thank you so much for watching, my friends. You'll find Amazon associate links to a lot of the things I've described today down below, as well as links to, wait for it, my boat life books. I spent most of the last decade living on canal boats on the lovely canals of this area. So please do take a look at those if you want to help me out and yeah, see something a little bit different and a nice calm way of life. Until the next time, my friends, keep it boat worthy, keep it boat worthy, have a fantastic day, and of course, farewell.